Welcome to Within the Frame, where we bring the most pressing issues across the globe into focus. I'm Kim Mok-yeon. 7 years after disappearing from the UN's main stage, North Korea returned and made sure the world listened. Vice Minister Kim Son-kyong stood before the General Assembly and declared giving up our nuclear weapons would be surrendering our sovereignty and our survival. No room for denuclearization, no direct mention of the U.S., but a door left slightly open to countries that, quote, respect Pyongyang. With that, North Korea is once again rewriting the rules, reaffirming its nuclear status while hinting at selective diplomacy. And as ties with China tighten and old friends in the Latin America resurface, the question now is, what exactly is Pyongyang positioning for in the weeks ahead? For answers to this, we are joined in the studio by Kim Mok-yeon, Senior Research Fellow at the Institute for National Security Strategy. Good to see you.
Good evening.
And also joining us online is Joseph Detrani, former Special Envoy of the U.S. for the Six-Party Talks. A big welcome.
Nice being here.
So let's start right away with Dr. Go. We want to hear what stood out for you the most, before we get into the details. What struck you the most about North Korea's overall tone and posture at this year's UN?
Well, first of all, I think most like a noteworthy aspect of the speech given by the North Korean Vice Minister Kim Son-kyong was that this speech was given by the Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs rather than the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Choi Son-hee, who at the time was in Beijing instead of New York, addressing the United Nations General Assembly. So Choi Son-hee was in Beijing meeting with Wang Yi, the Chinese counterpart to part in the Foreign Affairs Ministry, and to possibly discuss about the potential summit between Kim Jong-un and Xi Jinping, which clearly shows where the North Koreans are placing their priority in terms of diplomacy. Kim Son-kyong, the Vice Minister, North Korean Vice Minister, was in New York, essentially repeating the talking points that North Koreans have been saying in the last 3 years or so, reiterating again that North Korea's goal is to be recognized as a nuclear state. Therefore, this is the reason why Vice Minister Kim highlighted the importance of North Korea's, justification of North Korea's development of nuclear weapons, which is very ironic because North Korea is subject to very stringent UN sanctions due to the fact that North Korea is developing nuclear weapons. So, in fact, he was, in a roundabout way, denouncing the United Nations sanctions, but at the same time, extending the olive branch to the United States, possibly, and also highlighting the fact that North Korea is, in a way, re-entering the diplomatic stage of their policies, because North Korea, as you have explained at the beginning, had self-isolated itself from the international stage during the past 7 years, and now they are re-engaging the international community with diplomatic offers. So, in that sense, I think what North Koreans have said through this speech wasn't a groundbreaking statement, and was a reiteration of what they have said in the last couple of years. And also we have to read between the lines, also focus on the fact that the most important person in North Korean diplomacy was in China rather than New York.
Right, definitely something to note. Foreign Minister Choi Son-hee was in Beijing. We'll talk more about that as we speak. But before that, let's delve deeper into the message of the Vice Minister at the UN. So Kim flat out said they'll never give up nuclear weapons under any circumstances and called denuclearization a surrender of sovereignty. With recent orders to boost nuclear production, Ambassador, can we see this as North Korea's formal doctrine now?
Yeah, I think it is North Korea's formal doctrine. It's in their constitution. Certainly a few weeks ago, we heard that from Chairman Kim Jong-un, that North Korea will never give up its nuclear weapons. And now we're hearing it at the United Nations for the whole world to hear. This is North Korea's position. Not surprising. North Korea has always maintained a very strong position on nuclear weapons. Even during the Six-Party Talks, 2003 to 2005, until we got a joint statement, North Korea made it very clear that they wanted to be accepted as a nuclear weapons state. I think we have to put this in perspective. This is not new. When we discovered North Korea was pursuing a highly enriched uranium program for nuclear weapons, this was not an overt program. It was a clandestine program. So even while we were negotiating with North Korea to give up its nuclear weapons, and we were moving in that direction, North Korea was still pursuing, if you will, another path to nuclear weapons, a clandestine path, highly enriched uranium path to nuclear weapons. So no, this is not surprising. North Korea has been pursuing this goal of becoming a nuclear weapon state, certainly since 1994, with the agreed framework, and they continue. But now it's open. It's for the whole world to see, and this is part of their doctrine. And this is if we want to deal with North Korea, and Kim Jong-un is saying it very clearly, if you want to deal with us, accept us as a nuclear weapon state, and we could pursue a good relationship with you. In fact, we can pursue peaceful coexistence. That's pretty profound, and I think it's pretty logical when you look at the historical precedents here as North Korea pursued nuclear weapons in the past.
Right, exactly. So now it's not just rhetoric, it's policy, and they're making it a record. So let's link this with Washington, then, Ambassador. So Kim didn't mention the U.S. directly in his speech, but said North Korea is open to dialogue with countries that, quote, respect them, regardless of ideology. So combined with Kim Jong-un's earlier comments about President Trump, what's the real signal here on Washington?
No, I think Kim Jong-un is prepared to meet with President Donald Trump. I think the message is very clear. He's prepared. His condition is, however, accept us as a nuclear weapon state. I mean, that's been their position for decades. Accept us as a nuclear weapon state, and they would cite often Pakistan. You did this with Pakistan. Why can't you do this with the Democratic People's Republic of Korea? So yeah, I think Kim Jong-un has made it very clear he's prepared to re-engage with President Donald Trump. He's looking for for respect as a country. He's looking for acceptance as a nuclear weapon state, and that's. But he's going in there. He's in a stronger position now than ever before. He's going into potential negotiations with President Donald Trump with a very close relationship with the Russian Federation. Indeed, helping Russia in its war in Ukraine. Indeed, getting a lot of help from the Russian Federation on their nuclear and missile programs, in addition to their satellite programs. So yeah, he's going in there, and now he's re-engaging with China again. I mean, this is pretty profound. And as was just mentioned a few minutes ago, Choi Sung-hee, the foreign minister, was in Beijing meeting with Wang Yi, Foreign Minister Wang Yi, whom she knows from the six-party talks. Certainly, Wang Yi was the head, if you will, was the chairperson from the People's Republic of China, hosting the six-party talks. And so Choi Sung-hee, the foreign minister Choi Sung-hee, knows Wang Yi very well. But now North Korea is re-engaging very closely with China. And they have this good mutual defense treaty, powerful mutual defense treaty with the Russian Federation. That's a very strong position for Kim Jong-un to come to the table with President Donald Trump and say, now accept us as a nuclear weapon state, and we could pursue peaceful coexistence.
Right. So even though North Korea seems to have more priorities on China and Russia, it seems the door is still quite open for talks with Washington as well.
Yes.
Now, then let's take a look at Seoul's position as well. So South Korean President Lee Jae-myung introduced the so-called End Initiative at the UN, and then now Pyongyang doubled down on nuclears. Now, is this a rejection of engagement or an attempt to, stay ahead of the curve?
I don't think it's a rejection of a South Korean offer, which is one of engagement. So President Lee's speech, the title END, here END, E stands for exchange, N stands for normalization, as in normalization relations, not the diplomatic normalization. And D stands for denuclearization. So essentially, these are the steps that South Korea presently would like to pursue with North Korea to stabilize the situation in the Korean Peninsula. And here, the order of each step matters because President Lee is placing exchange, people-to-people exchange, I suppose, at the front of the process of stabilizing the inter-Korean relations. And so this is a very important speech. It's essentially it's a speech of President Lee's North Korea policy direction for the remainder of his term. So, and it's in a sense disappointing that North Koreans didn't react to it. Instead, they issue a statement, or also you said double down on their nuclear capability speech. But then at the same time, I don't think it's essentially a flat denouncing or the rejection of the South Korean initiative. I think it's more of a North Korea and South Korea speaking past each other. So, and then the reason is because each side has in mind very different objectives. So for North Korea right now, the priority is less about engaging with the South. After all, North Koreans it's only been 2 years since North Korea had announced that they would treat South Korea as a hostile nation rather than a part of the same Korean nation. So it's going to take a while for North Korea to deviate from that hostile line of inter-Korean policy. So, but at the same time, I think North Korea, as Ambassador Chani has pointed out, right now the priority is to recognize as a nuclear weapon state. So the engaging North Korea is not going to help in that goal, in achieving that goal. So on the other hand, for South Korea, clearly the priority, highlighting the containment of North Korea is not going to help with the situation in the Korean Peninsula. So therefore, I think what President Lee is doing is essentially trying to re-engage North Korea by telling North Koreans again that the South Korea is sincere about its intention to restart the engagement with the North. So this is the reason why the diplomatic engagement by the South doesn't seem to be successful. But on the other hand, this is a part of the long-term process to essentially reestablish trust with each other. So in that sense, I wouldn't really discount this effort.
Mm-hmm. Right, a very long-term, step-by-step phased process. Now, let's also bring in China to peace. So while Kim Son-kyong was in New York, like you said, Choi Sun-hee was in Beijing meeting Wang Yi, with both sides saying, they're in a complete agreement. Do you think Beijing is now taking more of an active role?
Well, I think for China, the Korean Peninsula policy is just a part of it's just one part of a bigger strategy that China is pursuing right now. And the Chinese strategic objective at this moment is to confront the United States. So, and this is the only reason why China reached out to North Korea and Russia for the occasion of the Victory Day parade at the beginning of September. And then the reason was because China wanted to project this perception that China is not alone. In fact, there are countries backing it up when China is standing up to the U.S. pressure or the pressure from the global West. So I think the statement that both China and North Korea are in complete agreement, I believe it is in terms of, I think it's about the fact that China and North Korea stand shoulder to shoulder when it comes to confronting the United States. I think that there's a significant differences in interest between China and North Korea when it comes to the region. For China, South Korea is a super important trading partner. For instance, China's trade with North Korea is $0.3 billion a year max, probably $2 billion right now. But the China's trade with South Korea is $1.2 trillion. So in that sense, China cannot antagonize South Korea the way North Korea is doing right now. So I think if it indeed true that China and North Korea have agreed for the occasion of the Wang Yi and Cheson's meeting is about confronting the United States together. I think that's mostly notional rather than an actual policy. So in that sense, I think we shouldn't give too much credence to this statement. Instead, focus on the substance of the China's relations, not just with North Korea, but also with South Korea and the United States.
So more of an alignment when it comes to the United States, right?
Yeah.
Then, Dr. Go, let's circle back to the UN side a little bit. Vice Minister Kim met with representatives of Cuba, Venezuela, Nicaragua in New York. What kind of strategic value in North Korea ramping up ties with these, traditional anti-U.S. partners?
Well, I think it's in part of their overall diplomatic blitzkrieg that they're engaged in. To re-engage with the international community. And we often forget that North Korea used to have a very active diplomatic profile, especially when it comes to reaching out to fellow travelers in the socialist or the non-aligned bloc. And I think what North Korea is doing is starting their diplomatic engagement step by step, first reaching out to the friendly states, such as Cuba, which used to be for a long time one of the few friends that North Korea had left in the international stage. And I don't think North Korea will stop there. I think eventually they're going to go beyond this small circle of friends and reach out to other countries, such as European countries that already have diplomatic relations with North Korea. I think North Korea will want to normalize relations with these countries first, after reaching out to their inner circle of friends. But I think this gives some, I think, a hope that North Korea would eventually reach out to South Korea as well. So I think we should support North Korea's diplomatic outreach at the moment, because I don't think they have some nefarious motivation behind it. I think while North Korea would like to enjoy recognition or acceptance of North Korea as a nuclear weapon state, nonetheless, I think North Korea is right now engaged in a phase of diplomatic outreach. And I think eventually, if the trend continues, it's going to have a positive impact in the inter-Korean relations as well. So I think we should encourage North Korea's diplomatic outreach.
Not necessarily a bad sign. Now, based on the North's speech that was delivered at the UN, Kim's remarks were firm, but it avoided threats or direct attacks. So, Ambassador, was that tone carefully chosen to, kind of keep doors open with certain partners, or more about managing optics on the global stage?
Well, I do think the tone, and I think you just phrased it so well. It was a more acceptable tone from Vice Foreign Minister Kim. It was not belligerent. It was not confrontational. Yes, I think this is Kim Jong-un reaching out to, indeed, the United States, but the global community writ large. He's saying, look, we're here. We're a player. You saw us in Beijing, standing next to Xi Jinping and President Vladimir Putin. We are a player, and we're a player with nuclear weapons. But those nuclear weapons are for deterrence purposes, because we see hostile countries. We view their cooperation and their joint military exercises and so forth as very threatening to the sovereignty of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. So yes, I think this is Kim Jong-un saying we want to be accepted as a normal nation state with nuclear weapons. And we're reaching out to President Donald Trump. Look, the beginning has always been a normal relationship with the United States. This is what Kim Il-sung, Kim Jong-il, and now Kim Jong-un have been pursuing, a normal relationship with the United States. This will give North Korea the international legitimacy, access to financial institutions, and it will be a path to normal relations with the United States. But hopefully, as Dr. Go indicated, this will re-engage North Korea with the Republic of Korea. This will get into Korean dialogue going again, reconstitute that element of moving towards reunification. and a unified Korean peninsula. Right now, Kim Jong-un is not there because he's made it very clear that the hostile nation, the enemy state, is the Republic of Korea and the United States, I might add. But now he's reaching out, and I think his presence, North Korea's presence at the United Nations, and the speech from Vice Foreign Minister Kim is indicative of the fact that North Korea now wants to re-engage. And I think this is something that the Russian Federation has to be a little nervous about. But I think China would be very pleased with movement in this direction because China doesn't want confrontation on the Korean Peninsula or in Northeast Asia. This is not in China's interest. But for the Russian Federation, that's a little different. So I see a little more of a balance now than a year and a half ago when North Korea was talking to Vladimir Putin and talking about a mutual defense treaty and sending troops into Russia to fight the war of aggression with Ukraine. I think this is Kim Jong-un trying to balance the scales. And I think China is very supportive of that move of Kim Jong-un, moving towards the United States, re-engaging with the United States, but also viewing themselves, viewing for the international community as a normal nation state, not a belligerent state, not as a rogue state, but as a normal nation state with nuclear weapons, I might add.
So it definitely seems like a strong messaging from North Korea's perspective. Now, with all of these, Dr. Go, what do you think would be North Korea's next play? Do you think a surprise meeting between, Kim Jong-un and U.S. President Trump could actually be on the table?
Well, we can certainly hope for that, but I think the likelihood of such encounter is pretty low. I mean, we know President Trump is coming to Korea for the occasion of the APEC meeting, APEC summit, and then some people are expecting the replay of what happened back in 2019 when there's a surprise encounter between Kim Jong-un and President Trump in Panmunjom. The reason why I discount this possibility is less about the desire on each side of the U.S. and North Korea for a meeting of this kind, or spontaneous meeting of this kind. But I think it's because North Korea is concerned about the optics of possibly contradicting their doctrine of treating South Korea as an enemy state. Because no matter how they cut it, if Kim Jong-un agrees to meeting with President Trump in Panmunjom again, that will have to involve the South Korean president, Lee Jae-myung, one or another. So the moment this takes place, Kim and Trump agree on a spontaneous meeting, President Lee will have to be there one or another, and I think then Kim will be forced to have a face-to-face meeting with President Lee, no matter whether he wants it or not. So I think the concern that North Korea might have of keeping out on optics that they are essentially becoming soft on the South Korea could be one of the deterrent or a risk factor that prevents North Korea from agreeing to a chance encounter with President Trump on the occasion of the APEC meeting.
All right. So it seems as though Pyongyang is positioning itself for something a bit bigger. We'll have to keep close eyes on the latest developments moving forward. But as for now, we'll have to conclude our discussion here at this point. Thank you so much for your insights, Dr. Go.
My pleasure.
And Ambassador Detrani, we really appreciate it.
Enjoyed it. Thank you.
And that'll be all from us on Within the Frame. Be sure to tune in again next time as we continue to explore the stories that matter. Until then, stay informed and engaged.